My name is Phil Cook, and I got started in the media business early. I was in high school making short films with my dad's Super 8 movie camera. We had a group of guys that made Army movies and Mafia movies and war movies and all kind of things, and went to college thinking I might find friends there that wanted to do the same thing, and I ran into a guy across the hall in my dormitory who showed me how to edit films, and I didn't know you could even do that. And we met his professor, his film professor. He looked at my film, asked me if he could show my film to his class. I said, yeah, I'd love to do it if I could sit on the back row. So the next day he showed my little short film, and it was a terrible film, but he showed it to his class, and they talked about it. And this idea hit me like just a bolt of lightning, that if I could do something with a camera that makes people talk like this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. And so I changed my major that day and have never looked back. And so I've spent the last 3 or 4 decades creating media in more than 60 countries around the world, and I've loved every minute of it.
And we began to produce, direct, and develop content that we felt that our children could see and still entertain, but develop content that meant something to us, that resonated with who we are. And it's been an exciting, on fire, never stopping, put my roller skates on and roll kind of journey.
When I moved out here, I had a SAG card already. I already had a great commercial reel. Started with commercials right away. I'm one of the few actors I know who came out here, didn't have to work another job. I didn't know a soul. I signed with a commercial agent basically over the phone when I moved out here, and I stayed busy. And then obviously Hercules was my big break, and that moved me to New Zealand. There was supposed to be 5 2-hour movies, ended up being 5 2-hour, with Anthony Quinn playing Zeus. I got a whole year with Anthony Quinn, and then that series just took off and became the most watched show in the world, followed by Andromeda, and that finished in 2005. We did 110 episodes of that. It's a Gene Roddenberry show. And now I just finished my 59th movie.
Well, I started out as a model. I modeled internationally. I lived in Europe and traveled a lot, and I always wanted to become an actress, and I was discouraged from going into acting all the way right from the start in high school. But when I was successful modeling, I thought it seemed like a reasonable segue.
My first job in the industry, I was 17, and I was booked for a kids television show on TBN called iShine Connect. And ever since then, I've been singing and acting and keeping busy, and I love it a lot.
For networking, I'll tell you the best. When I was at Trinity Broadcasting Network, I was over distribution with cable and satellite, and we had to be on the right satellite transponder. So I worked with a company called Olympusat that we contracted for TBN to be on their transponder. I had no idea that 15 years later, I would eventually leave TBN, on great terms, by the way, and the president of Olympusat hired me to head up Uplift Television.
I've got almost 40 people that work for the BIC Alliance, either in Baton Rouge, League City, or Philadelphia. We don't have just really good people. We've got good people with a good heart. And so we really feel like we've got a family business.
Networking is really about relationships. I see it because I live and work in Hollywood, and I get to see how people connect on a pretty regular basis. And it's really not about selling yourself. It's not about schmoozing people. It's not about taking advantage of people. It's about trying to develop real relationships. I mean, when people come to meet me, I can tell in a matter of seconds whether they're just trying to use me to get to the next level or get another project, or whether they really care about me. And so I'm convinced that true networking, it's funny that networking was a tool years ago that really fell out of popularity because people abused it. But I think today it's coming back in a much more positive way because people understand that if you can develop a real true relationship with someone, that's the kind of relationship that can help not only build your career, but help both of you advance. So for me, networking is really about helping the other person as much as it is about helping me. It's not just about using people. It's about how can we partner together to do something extraordinary that either one of us individually couldn't possibly do.
Networking to me is the foundation. It's kind of like kindness, faith, hard work. It's kind of like the foundation on which a successful personal, spiritual, and professional life is built.
One of the most significant parts of the Christian walk and of our lives in general is community and building that community. When relationships are built in like a healthy and organic and genuine way, networking is such an amazing tool to not only build friends and to build your community and your village, but also work-wise, it doesn't hurt.
The movies I wanted to do didn't always mesh with what I was being sent out on, so we formed our own production company a while ago and started reading scripts and going through our own way, and we realized, okay, you got to do the networking, you got to meet people. It's the same thing when I first moved out here, just like you've got to go audition, you got to meet people.
Yeah, and I would just add that for young actors who are going on auditions, it's more about the relationship with the casting director that you have than it is about how good you are. A lot of times an actor is cast just because they look a certain way, and you know that you can just edit around whatever they do because that you just want that specific look.
And if you get the job, don't be a jerk. Be appreciative. I mean, I got a lot of my work, the commercial work was awesome for me until I got my bigger breaks with other things. Commercials are very lucrative, and to me it's putting the miles on. You're still in front of a camera, you're still working, and I created really good relationships with directors by just being myself. And they would just call up and say to the client, say, look, here's a tape of this guy, he's an easy guy, he's a pro, he doesn't whine, he shows up on the set, he knows his lines, boom. And that sort of created more work for me. The question is, would you rather have God in your corner?
Marketing is much more overt. Marketing is, here's my product, here's why it's amazing, here's why you need to buy it, and here's how to order it. Networking is much more about building a long-term relationship. It's not about selling so much as building confidence. I think that when it comes to networking, credibility is the single most important word you can imagine. Marketing is much more in your face. It's a great tool, and we should be thinking about marketing when it comes in terms of services or products or experiences. But networking is different because it's really about credibility. And if we can't build credibility with other people, I just don't think we're going to get very far. And so that's why it's so important for networking and why networking is really dramatically different from marketing.
A marketer doesn't care necessarily how it's done. Network, I care that these people believe what I believe, move in the way I move, that we have a synergy that's based upon the right system of values. For me, networking means that I have a relationship with you, not that I'm just trying to get something from you, but I have a relationship with you that allows us to do something back and forth and back and forth, and we all get something out of it.
On a personal note, I've been a lot more successful in business when I was a born-again Christian, because in my early life, that's one of the things that brought me down and where I had to start over, is I didn't have maybe the same values and treated others like I expect to be treated.
Working is based on shared interests, and whether your shared interest is golf, whether it's fly fishing, whether it's hunting, whether it's acting, whether it's the church, whatever it may be, that's the key to making networking work. And so I think from that perspective, the principles of networking are the same in the secular world or the Christian world. However, I do think in the Christian world, the roots go much deeper. So I think there's probably more opportunities to connect with people in the Christian space because there's so many areas where a Christian viewpoint or perspective can impact people's lives. So, but don't think for a minute that I do find a lot of people that assume because I'm a Christian, I'll buy into their crazy idea. And so I still think we have to be very respectful of people, and that credibility factor is still really very important.
This can actually take someone who is absolutely dogmatic about staying away from the Christian life and transform their thinking, open their heart in order to receive Christ because they received something that they didn't expect, that they didn't have to jump through hoops, that they didn't have to do something kind of off in order to get or to receive something so great. that has a lot to do with why we have to move the way we do in terms of our actions as Christians in the marketplace. We've got to still exemplify Christ no matter.
I do think that in general, Christian networking and mainstream networking, I don't see a ton of difference. I think we as the people have to make the difference, and we have to choose what our intention is. You know, if our intention for networking with someone is only because we know that they're gonna, you know, have a connection that we need, or we know that they're gonna give us a role or an opportunity that we need, or they have a certain size checkbook that we really desire, then I think the intention is, it's impure and it's not genuine, and it may seem to work right away, but it's not going to sustain in the long run.
So we'll develop relationships with a pastor or a ministry leader or someone at a major studio or a movie studio or television network here in Hollywood, and nothing will come of it. You know, I just want to be their friend. I just reach out to them, and I just want to develop that relationship. And it's not about selling them. But what I find is years later, over and over and over, they will come back and want to develop that kind of relationship, and we end up going into business together. So I get calls from pastors constantly who I met at a conference or who I met in some other way years before. And when the need arises, guess what? They think of me because they had that very positive experience before.
I think the biggest thing for me in this whole realm of marketing and networking is that people recognize that they don't have to wait till they're perfect, that we serve a perfect God, and we are to continually gear our minds towards what He has done in our lives.
I was asked to moderate a panel, and Earl Hurd was on that panel, and he really started talking about the importance of media and creating it and funding it. And at that time, he had already produced Rock Bottom and Back, and he was working on Urban Country. And so I immediately wanted to meet with him afterwards. We started talking. So there was a networking event happening just by being on a panel together. So, but afterwards, we purposely sat down and talked about what we could do together. And since just 1 year, we have already Rock Bottom and Back movie on our network, Uplift TV, and our sister network, Parables. Then I asked Earl, I said, this is so fantastic, can you turn it into a series? So he went ahead and re-edited. So we were able to take that movie, turn it into 2 episodes. So we're now airing them. We're continually airing the 2-episode series, and Earl is looking to even extend that out into multiple episodes. It's a great concept. And the more I learned about Earl and got to know him, and he's like a mentor to me. Guess what I did? I said, you know, Earl, we have a show. We've had movie stars on. We've had CEOs. It's called Uplifting People. We would like to have you on there. So we had Earl Hurd on earlier this year on Uplifting People. In addition to that, he sends me a show called Leisure Connection. That's a wonderful show. So we've already got it on our Untamed Sport Network.
When I was at Ethel Corporation, I learned that that when I found my mentors and I became their protege, in many cases you help move that mentor up in the organization and they will bring you up with them. And that would be advice that I would give everybody, is get involved in the professional organizations, treat others like you would like to be treated, and create mentor-protege relationship.
I have no concept of time, but somewhere between 2010 and 2017, I think it was around 2012 or 13, I was playing a concert at it was like a big festival where I was playing a show, like a really big event, like a winter jam kind of event, and it was amazing. I really enjoyed my time, and as I was meeting people at the end of the show and signing autographs, it was moving a bit swift because it's a busy evening, and so I wasn't able to really engage with people like I wanted to, but I was, you know, trying as much as I could to get names and say hi to people, and thanks for coming to say hi and everything. And At some point, there was about a stream of 10 to 15 people that started saying the same thing. 2-3 people down the road, like, hi, my friend Kayla Jane, she really wanted to come tonight, but she couldn't come. Fewer people down the road. It was all these people, and so I started to realize that it was an entire church that had come together. And this one little girl, Kayla Jane, she had recently been diagnosed with cancer, and she was really sick, and so she couldn't make it. I felt like such a burden in my heart to want to connect with this little girl and to want to figure out how in the world like I could send her a card or something. And so I signed some things for her via her friends. And I don't even remember the exact way that we ended up connecting, but you would think, well, here's an artist, here's an autograph line, you send a card, that's it. But that little girl has become such a significant part of my life. She is the core behind the song I wrote called Fighter, and without knowing her story, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I remember, it started off of me I remember I made a phone call to her and her mom. It started off as me doing it as like, here's a fan that I wanted to reach out to, but there was something so special about her. She ended up being one of the junior bridesmaids in my wedding and like singing in the kids choir at the wedding, because that little girl has like meant so much to me. And I think when we oftentimes in our lives we can say, oh, God really spoke to me today, or God really said something powerful. And the thing is that God is always speaking, God is always moving. It's just, are we listening? Like, are we actually paying attention to what he's doing around us? Like, there's always a Kayla Jane around us. It's like, are we paying attention so that we can actually see her, so we can hear her, and that we can see how God is going to use her in our lives.
The reason that we made this movie is to speak into the culture the message of hope. That message is being lost today. The message of atheism is not hope. And we are a hopeful people, we're a hopeful nation, and we need to preserve that message. And the way to preserve that message is actually through faith-based filmmaking.
Answering people's questions about Christ. They'll be digital missionaries.
So you want to proselytize?
Absolutely, and without apology. We should be proselytizing life with as much vigor as ISIS proselytizes death. Saul, you cannot defeat an ideology on the battlefield alone.
To beat an ideology of evil, you need an ideology of good.
Yes.
Print helped get me here. Digital and social media has helped take us to the next step. And that's why I'm so passionate about continuous learning.
I think that intentional networking works. I think pure networking works. I teach online courses on like how to start your music career, how to share your YouTube channel, how to do all of those kinds of things. And one of the biggest things that I always stress, and I always say it with a smile so I don't offend anyone, but I'm like, please don't copy and paste a promotional comment on my Instagram, because I want you to take the time to share why you think I would like it. I always say, like in my lessons, I always say, like, if some girl named Katie walks up to me and says, here's my poster, I'm doing a concert tonight, I'm gonna be like, Katie, I don't know you, like stranger danger, like I can't go. But if Katie walks up and says, I see you have colorful hair, well, let me tell you about something else crazy, I've got a concert tonight, I'm gonna be like, Katie, you were paying attention. You figured out what it was that we had in common. You were intentional. You saw me as a person, not as someone with the amount of Instagram followers that you wanted to connect, not as a celebrity that has influence, but you saw me as a person and you found a way to relate to me.
I think social media has changed everything, not just networking, and not necessarily in a good way. We know from statistics, from research, that this generation of young people don't know how to read a room, which means when they go into a meeting, they don't know what anybody's thinking because they're used to seeing screens, not actual faces. And how does that help in networking? Because real networking is about personal relationships. Certainly you can use Twitter and Instagram or Facebook to connect with people. I've met people through social media that I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. However, it's not, you've got to be more intentional than that. You've got to go beyond just connecting on social media and get to the place where you reach out to them in a much deeper, more responsive way. So I have people all the time that reach out to me on social media and they act like they're my best friend just because we're Twitter, or they follow me on Twitter. That's not the point of social media. So I think that social media has been both good and bad for networking because it makes some people have a mistaken idea of what real relationships are. On the other hand, it can be an important key to help expand your influence and connect you with people that otherwise you might never meet.
From beginning to end. I don't meet a stranger, and a stranger don't meet me.
Networking works, but let me make this caveat. It works not as a tool as much as a relationship.
I think networking is beautiful and incredible when it's pure and when it's well-intentioned.
We want to inspire people to build this community because this is an important community.
You can learn the hard way, or you can learn from somebody who's traveled the hard road. And believe me, I've been to rock bottom and back. I hope you've enjoyed listening to these champions share their pearls of wisdom. And thanks to all of our champions for being a part of this meaningful program. Remember, networking is getting together to put God first and to spread peace, love, and happiness here on earth.
Tune in to learn more about how this important tool can change your life.